I'm Doug Jones, and you have discovered Beyond Trek Podcast.
On a red alert.
Repression of emotions is healthy, right? Bury them.
I don't see no points on your ears, boy, but you sound like a Vulcan. I want to make a gif of that says, "I don't see no trunk on your nose, boy, but you sound like a Republican."
That would be a good change from what we usually see or what we usually hear on that from Encounter at Farpoint.
I'd have to go digging for it, but there's actually a talk that DeForest Kelley gave when talking about Ronald Reagan in like 84, 85, where he just shredded the guy. It was delightful. I'll have to try and find that for you.
What did he do?
Nothing
he shit all over him.
Nothing is cooler than a crotchety Democrat.
Yeah, he was talking about how Ronald Reagan wants to drag us into the 1920s again so that we'll all be rich and then poor again and then they'll eat a lot of people. He was like, that was his line. He was talking about how he's going to lead to a peasant revolt in America kind of thing about Ronald Reagan.
Now, the peasants are too distracted to revolt. We're
locking our houses right now.
Well, yeah.
Oh, you're right. We can't go anywhere.
If DeForest Kelley was still alive, he'd be 98.
He would? 98?
No, that's not true. He died in 1999 at the age of 79, so he'd be 100 this year.
Oh, nice.
Today is day 1 of 17 off for me, so...
You have 17 days off?
Yes, sir.
How did you manage to get that?
I work for a really cool place that does it yearly, and I'm going to use it to try to put my feet to the pavement and run some.
Wow.
Fun. Yeah, we have a long winter break as well, but I always issue it because I don't have a particular need to do it. I don't, and it pays super well, so...
Well,
Lucky.
I'm gonna be monitoring because I have some bugs that are in that need to be resolved.
Okay.
But
nothing like working trouble tickets while you're off.
I mean, they're really easy sometimes, but yeah, it's not at all as buggy as reliving your life in an alternate dimension 900 years in the past.
I was shocked by what happened here. It took away some of my expectations and some of the predictions I had, which we'll definitely get into that. And
before we get into that, though, I'm Renzo. I am the fan-turned co-host.
I'm Big J.
I'm Dag, and this is your spoiler alert. If you haven't seen Terra Firma Part 2 yet, don't worry, we're going to tell you all about it, so don't go anywhere.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
This was an episode. I love Mirror Universe episodes. It's always cool to see the dark side of what could have been. And despite the technical discussions that people get in about whether or not the Mirror Universe was spawned from the Prime Universe or vice versa, or if they just exist parallel, it always fascinates me to answer the question, what might have been, and then to get an example. I love it.
Well, I'm kind of okay with Mirror Universe episodes, but like I said last week in our recording, it just seems like they're hammed up so much that it borders on being comical.
Oh, it's certainly hammy. Like, that's very much intentional, right? Like, bearded mustache characters of our good guys in TOS, right? Definitely hammy. Super sexy, slutty Hoshi Sato and Enterprise, definitely hammy. The evil Miles O'Brien, who is like a comic book villain, or evil Kira, or evil everyone from the DS9 Mirror Universe, all of them are comically evil. And it's intended to be this way. It's not supposed to be serious or taken seriously, I think. This is probably as close as Trek gets to taking it seriously in Terra Firma, but everything historical for the Mirror Universe is like camp. It's just pure camp, and I love it.
I like some camp here and there. So why don't we dive in and see what we got this time around?
Yeah, absolutely. So in scene 1, we bar no holds or hold no bars or whatever, because it opens right when Mira Burnham is being dragged to the brig from our closing point last week, where Georgiou almost decapitated her and then decided to choose a new path for their future. In the brig, she tries to prove that Georgiou is weak by not killing her. Georgiou steps around Michael's accusations and agonizes her, intending to use pain to convert her back to her side. In Georgiou's quarters, Killy asks why Michael is still alive. Georgiou says she intends to make Michael an example to her co-conspirators and break her. Killy, as the best interrogator, is given the task.
The agonizer booth
demands some like free reign, essentially,
right?
Which is pretty significant because Killy looks like delighted to get the chance to torture Michael.
Oh yeah.
So here's a question I've got. I want to see what you guys think about this. But so in the Prime universe, Tilly was a cadet first, then became an ensign, and in the Mirror universe, she's a captain. So that is that just because they want to have one of the established characters or actors in a role, despite what the rank may be? Because we've talked about that before, where this character is lower in the chain of command, but is getting more screen time.
I don't think so. So remember in the first season, well before we ever heard of Tilly becoming XO or anything, Tilly was still Killy, and Killy was the captain of Discovery, because in the Mirror universe, one advances by murder. Oh, you killed your senior officer? You take their place because you took it. So all this tells us is that Tilly, who is timid and weak in our universe, is aggressive and murderous in their universe. And so she got ahead. Doesn't matter how young she is. If she's able to be brutal enough and do it, she gets it.
All about the brutality. Yep. Sorry, Dag.
I sort of have a different take on that, because I'm thinking about in terms of mirrors again. I think the Killy in the Mirror universe is much more self-sure and not as inhibited by there's a word for that. Just
morality.
Second guessing. Yes, Killy's nurture was morality is bad, so don't worry about it. But her nature is she's very much less hindered by her anxieties and second guessing herself. In the Prime universe, who knows if she had a little bit more confidence and less second guessing, she might be much further ahead in her rank.
But also the structure, right? Like in Starfleet, being aggressive and demanding something like a Ensign Rowe, who is very much a go-getter trying to get ahead, doesn't necessarily work, because she got bumped down in rank. Same thing with Mariner. Mariner was really good, really aggressive, and then got bumped down in rank, and she kind of settled there, right? Like,
right.
I don't think Starfleet really rewards the sharks, as the legal terminology for them would be.
I just think what we get demonstrated here are not necessarily two extremes, but definitely two outliers, where in the Prime universe, Tilly may have been overlooked for some career advancements because of her lack of confidence and self-assuredness. Whereas in the Mirror universe, Killy was confident, secure, and oh, by the way, murder is promotion. So just boom, captain.
That's how you get ahead. And you're right. That's how you get ahead there. So she's probably killed a lot of people.
No doubts on that one. I mean, look at her nickname, Killy, Captain Killy.
Yeah. Best interrogator on the ship in the quadrant. Yeah, no, Killy is by and far the person for the job. And can we talk about how cool her look is here? Like, what do you guys think? Yes. Prime Tilly hair or Mirror Tilly hair?
I love the frizz. So I think I'd stick with the frizz.
Cool.
I think, that's tough, because I'm partial to redheads anyway, sometimes kind of, because I just don't come across redheads often at all. So it's like as soon as there is a redhead, I kind of don't care what the style is. But if I had to pick one, I think I would probably go with Prime Universe, the frizzy. If I had to pick one, and that's tough. That's a tough choice, but having to pick one, I'd go with that one.
Now, one of the interesting things about this scene is she turns around and she looks at a video feed of Michael and the brig, and there's a little bit of a device thing next to that video feed, and it looks a lot like the same device that Mirror Kirk had on his Enterprise, which was basically, I can't remember what it was called, but it disappeared. Thank you. It disappeared anybody on the ship whenever you wanted them to die. So I think that's pretty cool that they kind of are maybe alluding to that with this device next to that video feed. Back in the brig, Michael is rejecting food. Killy tells Michael that Philippa is too soft-hearted to do what must be done and agonizes her for not naming her co-conspirators. She says, strength is power, terror is love. We enter a what do you call it when there's just a bunch of montage? It's a montage sequence. Montage. Michael is being tortured day after day. She's rejecting food day after day. And when it looks like she might be dying, Culber comes in with a resuscitation hypo.
What do you think the agonizer booth feels like being in that? What would you say you would relate that to? We've never been, at least I've never been tortured or interrogated. But, interrogated, maybe a little bit. But yeah, what do you guys think that would be like?
Dr. Mirrorflox talks about exactly what it does in A Mirror Darkly. He talks about how it stimulates different nerve centers so that you don't completely overload the subject and they pass out from the pain. The point is to keep them conscious while it, quote, agonizes. And I think really what it's doing is it is probably stimulating all of your pain receptors, but at the same time giving you that pins and needles feeling that's totally uncomfortable.
So my expectation was always, it probably feels like burning and then freezing and then burning and then freezing, right? If you've ever held like something that is very, very warm and something that's very cold in like a different hand, and then like held something neutral in between, there's this really uncomfortable feeling of where your hand that was hot now feels cold and vice versa. And that kind of like flipping back and forth is very uncomfortable. It's agony. I figure that it's something like that. It's got to be something that like your entire body is like on pins and needles probably. It's just, yeah.
Like the feeling you get when your hand falls asleep or your leg falls asleep or whatever, but multiply it by 10 and apply it to the entire body
and make it hurt.
And not just on the outside, because it's not something on just the skin. It looks like it's something that's very much internal too.
Yeah. Okay.
So
let's move on from that.
If we're doing the ultra hot and the ultra cold flipping back and forth thing, this must be the universe where they didn't develop icy hot.
This scene is actually really well shot though too, right? Like it goes to show you like the wide shots of like how it's going and how they're torturing her, and then they go to very, very personal shots of like Sonequa's face and how she's specifically dealing with it and suffering from it, right? Like it's really well shot, and you can see the strain and the wear on her too.
Yep. Yeah, and the whole time Georgiou is watching from her room. I was going to comment on that too. I love the makeup that makes her look totally sick and weak. Detmer comes in, makes a plea to Michael. Michael asks about Lorca. Detmer says, no one's heard from him. He's not coming for you. Now I know I skipped over something that was, we skipped over the credits. Did you guys notice the cool thing about the credits?
What, that they were flipped and inverted in color?
Yeah, they were flipped in a mirror and then inverted in color. I loved it.
I thought it was for the Australian audience that it was upside down.
More Reddit jokes.
Oh boy.
So I
was the color cool. Inverted?
Yeah.
Is that why it was blue?
It was a bit darker.
No, well, the theme for Discovery was always orange, and people questioned that when it first came out. Like, Starfleet's color is blue. Why isn't it blue? It should have been more blue. They even did fan edits of it, right? Yep. Now this time we got one that was blue, flipped, and it was reversed. So I think it's pretty funny. I liked the intro quite a bit. It's still not as cool as the one from In a Mirror Darkly and Enterprise.
That was good. Yes.
Phenomenal.
But In a Mirror Darkly was set up as these two episodes are the mirror universe. It acted like this is not even, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Like it was their own episode, their own series. it was a break from the Prime Universe. So it was just an entire 2 episodes that was Mirror Universe, and that was it. But yeah, that opening was pretty cool.
Well, I mean, this episode also had the modified intro, which isn't something typical for Trek. Trek just basically does its own intro every time.
Yep.
So they were definitely making a statement that this is a Mirror Universe gimmick that they're going to do in Trek now, which I think is awesome.
I do enjoy it. Georgiou shows up in the brig, makes a personal plea for Michael to come around, tells her that, you know, by reclaiming her by her side, she will bring her all of the fireflies, and leaves behind a small little globe of fireflies. It's kind of just touching for the Mirror Universe. It's probably the most touching thing we've seen in the Mirror Universe thus far. And Michael decides that she is going to eat again.
A piece of bread.
With white bread.
Right, yeah. Real interesting thing here. The force fields here feel a lot like Borg force fields, because
They do.
like Michael can't walk out, but Georgiou can. So there's got to be some kind of biosensor.
Did she walk out through the field? I thought she walked out with a Woshikun armed and the field down.
No, she walks in with the field up, and
Yes.
she walks out with the field up. But
Okay.
later it doesn't make sense, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I was confused by that. It wasn't consistent.
It is just
The
weird.
walking in was definitely consistent, and it looked really cool every time. I just don't remember her walking out the field, but you
Yeah,
might be right.
it was right there where she leaves Michael with the fireflies. She just walks through the force field on her way
Ooh.
out.
Cool.
All right. So maybe a couple of days later, whatever, Michael wants to talk to Philippa, and she gets escorted in, immediately bows and pledges her allegiance to Georgiou, and says she'll name and kill her co-conspirators to prove herself to Philippa. Michael tells her, "You can trust me again." Georgiou tells her not to come back until she's proven herself, which is, I thought, maybe that constitutes a little bit of foreshadowing based on how things went down later, that Georgiou didn't immediately jump at the chance to say that Michael had re-earned her trust.
Am I the only one that pretty much thought right away that it was a ruse that Michael was playing?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to believe it's real.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's not just me.
I think, I mean, ultimately, I wanted to talk about what I thought the lesson of this episode for Georgiou was. But I definitely want to address that at the conclusion of that arc.
Oh, sorry, real quick. I forgot to say this. Going back to the interrogation montage, that's where I would fail, because as soon as you give me like a nice meal and say, "Here, we'll feed you a steak if you talk," I'm starting to think, okay, you know, I might have to, because, you know, I'm a big guy, and with me, food is an easy bribe. Here's a pizza.
Well, that's actually something that, like, and you can read up on this if you really want to go to the dark parts of like the internet,
Yes.
about what torture was like for methodology for people who were held in Guantanamo and such. They found that like physical abuse didn't really work too well. And then interrogators that worked for other agencies and such found that things like rewarding them and feeding them and treating them with some humility actually was more effective at getting information. So
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
Because you tell your friends stuff, and there's a little bit of that Stockholm syndrome in there, as your abusers become your friends through that bad stuff.
Yep.
So Michael bails, and walking through the hall, we have Detmer and Landry. They get into a scuffle. Landry knocks Detmer to the floor and walks away, prepared to take on somebody, when Michael shoots her in the back from a corner and steals her badge. Detmer and her share a glance. Go ahead.
I really like the fact that they brought Landry back for this. I thought that the actress, whose name I believe is Rekha Sharma, is really good.
Yeah.
She did some really good work for Star Trek Online as well. She did some voice acting as Landry. That was great.
Nice.
And they give background to her character, and now she's back playing Mirror Landry and Equal Landry and Equal.
So we'll see later, but also Arium as a human.
That was cool.
Also super cool.
Now she killed. So this was the scene where Landry was killed,
Right.
Yes.
and okay, so that was when we get to the end, I'll bring up my beef about that, because there's more that kind of happens that adds to that beef I've got. But okay.
Right on.
So she's collecting their badges, like essentially their equivalent of their comm badges, and on the back of comm badges, and on the back that she's killed, which is pretty cool.
Just like
it is.
In the 24th century, the Picard badge had their rank and name on it.
It's like saving dog tags.
Yeah.
something like that.
Goose, tell me something, Goose. So yeah, Michael and Detmer return to Georgiou with all of the badges of everybody she has killed, and it's not just Landry, it's also
Reese,
and some other names. I don't remember them all, but Reese stood out because I was like, oh, Reese is gone. And Georgiou says, is that all? Detmer speaks up and says, yes. Georgiou looks back at Michael, whereon Michael kills Detmer and tosses Detmer's badge to Georgiou.
And even going into this scene, Michael was already pretty covered in blood. She's got a good bit on her. Detmer looks like she's been through hell too. She's also got some blood on her. And then there's just a knife in your gut.
Yeah.
Well, and the Detmer thing, add that to the later Big J beef. So Landry, Detmer, okay.
Yeah, I mean, like if I was gonna speculate right now, I would say that Detmer was the only co-conspirator that Michael killed, and that everybody else was somebody that Michael knew was not a co-conspirator. Which is why when they have that showdown at the end, it's pretty fairly matched. And then Predator Saru goes wild.
I don't think so. I think those were all legit co-conspirators of her. Landry, Reese, etc. All of them were real. They just weren't the only ones. Yeah, because she's trying to prove herself to Georgiou, and she knows Georgiou is very aware of things because of things like she knew that Detmer was one, right? Like Georgiou is very in the know, and Michael knows that. So she's only going to kill people that are legit. She just may not have killed all of them.
So you think she's not going to? I get what Dag is saying. That was a good thought. But you don't think that she is going to rely on getting away with that? Like, I'm just going to kill some random people, say they were co-conspirators, and hope to God she doesn't find out that I was lying.
Not for the majority. She might do it for one, maybe a second name, but she's not going to spend most of it. She's going to spend most of it like trying to build up her reputation, you could think, with Georgiou, so she can get close to her again.
I don't know. I mean, you guys probably have a really good point there, but I just took it as, if she went around and killed the heavy hitters that weren't co-conspirators, all the co-conspirators would be like, yeah, we're totally on your side. We're good. And there'd be nobody to say otherwise. Detmer would be the only liability there because Detmer helped. And so you have to kill the person who helped you kill all of the bad guys that you don't want known.
Yeah.
You don't want Detmer talking.
But you remember how Georgiou knew that Tilly was on her side, right? Real Georgiou knew that Tilly was on her side as well, right?
You weren't Michael would too high profile for.
Of course. But my point is, Georgiou knows the people who are on her side already. She's not sure about others, but she knows who is on her side. As soon as Michael kills someone that Georgiou knew was on her side, charade's over. I don't think Michael's going to risk it.
Okay. There's
no way to be sure.
There's definitely a point there as well. We transition to a dining scene in Georgiou's quarters. Michael discusses the lack of kelpian on the menu, and Georgiou sort of hand waves it as they're too high in cholesterol and their texture's ugly, and dismisses Saru.
Too high in cholesterol.
I know, right? Michael and Georgiou play some word chess about loyalty, truth, and Lorca's location, and Michael gives up a contact to find Lorca, and they move forward.
I was really hoping that we would get some kind of cameo from Lucius Malfoy. I can never remember the actors.
Jason Isaacs.
That's right, Jason Isaacs. But yeah, I was hoping for it. Didn't get it.
Computer, evasive maneuver cadavra, please.
You know what? For the longest time, I thought they were saying abracadabra.
That's
for
the joke.
The killing spell.
No,
I thought that joke was right. Yeah, I know, but I thought that's what was actually being said. And I was thinking, no way, they're not really saying that. But I was mishearing during the movies.
Cadabra.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, Renzo. You said that was actually why they made it. That was a play. Oh,
it's a play on the words, so that when regular Muggles joke about like, oh, magic, abracadabra. If a wizard heard you, be like, oh, you don't say those words, right?
Gotcha.
And they don't correct us either.
Sorry, I'm a little slow in the uptake.
It's all good. It's after dinner, and Saru is combing Georgiou's hair. They're discussing Burnham's rehab. She says Saru will remain with her and not return to Burnham. He says he cannot. The Vaharai is coming for him. She explains what Vaharai really is and that he will survive. He asks how she can know, and she waxes nostalgically about Prime Saru's survival and successes as captain of Discovery in the other universe. He realizes that every Kelpian who has ever been called the Vaharai, it's been a lie, and she inspires him to survive and avenge them. He then questions her Terran-ness, and she affirms it. He tells her to run and survive, or her peers will kill her. She vows to make this place what it needs to be, and she will survive.
So, really cool scene, generally. It's nice to see Saru mirror Saru, showing a little bit of backbone, which is good, especially from a race that's only known slavery, as far as we know. So it was pretty cool. It shows some of the range of Michelle Yeoh, because she's trying to put off this air of being deadly serious, but also very clearly trying to like mother and protect this Saru, because she cares about Prime Saru.
Yeah.
I do like the relationship that they had, or at least that she was trying to build with him. It really seemed like she's seen the error of her ways, if I could say that, and she's trying to.
Let's not jump to that.
A little much. Okay.
No. I mean, we're going to talk about that a lot at the end. I mean, right? Like,
yeah, well, right.
That's what our end discussion has to be. So.
Right.
Yep.
She kind of befriended him and took Kelpian off the menu. Those are a couple big things right there for a Terran.
Someone reminds us later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We transition to the bridge. Ariam says they found the target, and after some weird wordplay, they warp to Ryza. Ryza in this universe has rings. It's never been seen with rings before.
Why didn't it have rings?
It's a mirror universe. They can do anything.
Oh,
they blew up the moon.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ryza is supposed to have 3 moons, and here it has 3 ring systems. So they may have blown up all 3 moons.
Okay.
You heard it on Beyond Trek podcast first. All right, so they detect Duggan on a shuttle in orbit. There's a verbal exchange, and ultimately they destroy the shuttle and beam Duggan over. I'm super interested. Everybody here's a commander. Commander Ariam, Commander Nilsson, Captain Tilly. I think that's just, mirror universe rules. You're either a captain or a commander, and that's just how it works.
Conversely, look at the Enterprise D in Generations, right? You've got Commander Worf, Commander Data, Commander Crusher, Commander Troy, Commander Riker.
Well, even then, Worf and Data are still lieutenant commanders.
Correct.
Right, but you don't ever call them lieutenant, you call them commander.
That's just parlance for the
exactly.
Force. Yeah, that's true.
Well, okay, so technically you're right. They were lieutenant commander, and you either call them lieutenant commander or call them commander. Like a lieutenant colonel, you would call them lieutenant colonel or colonel. But the comparison I was going to make was on the Enterprise A, the 1701A. Sure. By the time we got to, it may have even been before the Enterprise A, but at one point,
3 captains.
Yeah, you had 3 captains, 4 or 5 commanders. Let's see, because Kirk was captain, starting with, at the end of Star Trek 3. So we got bumped down back to captain. Spock was captain.
So was Scotty.
Scotty was promoted to captain Star Trek 3. And then as commanders, you had Uhura, Sulu, Chekhov. I think that's everybody.
Yeah, that's the whole cast.
Yeah.
Well,
so all captains and commanders.
This isn't our Star Trek 6 breakdown, but if you go with the theory that the Enterprise in Star Trek 6 is a diplomatic special ops team, then it makes sense why they're all really higher ranked in those fields. But it doesn't make sense that Uhura didn't speak Klingon.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway,
that would be a whole other going to the left on that one.
Here we go. All right, so Duggan gets beamed aboard and Burnham interrogates him slightly. Duggan says Georgiou can't trust Burnham, and right then Burnham kills Duggan, then points the phaser at Philippa. They plea for each other to be their own version of better. Betrayal complete, they fight. Burnham's allies enter with weapons trained. Michael pushes Georgiou into a cell, and this is where my point about the cells is weird. In the first time, Philippa could enter and exit a cell no problem, and now they're in a cell fighting, and Michael's like, it's just us, and it's not like Philippa can't just jump back out through the force fields now. We already know phasers can fire through force fields because Michael shot Duggan through one. So what's going on here? Why isn't any of Philippa's allies killing Michael? What's going on?
I think it's rhetorical. I think it's just like wordplay. It's like ignore the rest of them. The only fight that matters is between you and me, kind of thing.
I guess.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got it too, is in a fight like that, when you've got two people, and you see this a lot, you've seen this before in other movies, TV shows, you let the two people fight it out, and if you're a side person or side character or a minion or whatever, it's just like let them have it. Kind of like at the end of Lethal Weapon when they Riggs and the one dude, and they let him have it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of my favorite parts of this fight scene, it's Owo versus Bryce round 2, just like we saw in Terra Firma Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
Was that Bryce or was that Reese in the first one? I thought it was Reese.
It was Reese. Yeah, you're right. It was Reese.
All right.
Reese is the Asian dude. Bryce is the African American man.
I will turn in my memory card right after this episode. But also
just upgrade it to a 16 meg one. I've got an older PS1.
I love Sarah Middich, who plays Nilsson, because right here, and I can see this, and I hope Renzo, you can see it.
Yep.
Jay, I don't know if you're logged in, but the way that Killy kills
Arium,
not Arium, she's Nilsson.
Is she Nilsson in this one? Or
no, she's Nilsson because she plays Nilsson in the Prime universe. They brought back Heather Cheeseman, Hannah Cheeseman. They brought back Hannah Cheeseman to play Arium in this, and Nilsson's here, and she slits her throat and then shoots her in the head. And the look of surprise that Sarah Middich just emits in this moment is glorious.
I'm just not sure that that's Cheeseman or Middich. I thought that this was...
That's Middich. Okay. Final answer. I lost my memory card on Bryce versus Rice.
Reese.
Damn it!
Bryce and Rice, including
the reason I say this is because of the hair color. So the Arium character, like without the makeup, has dark hair. Nilsson is like bright blonde. This one is darker haired.
In the mirror universe, yeah, because here's where Arium is.
No, that one's Nilsson. That's Nilsson.
No, that's Arium. You've got it backwards. You got to trust me.
I trust you.
Because first of all, this is right after she addresses her as Arium.
check your Slacks or your Discord, sir.
What? My Discord for what?
The debate between Arium and Nilsson.
No.
It doesn't help that they made them look kind of similar.
Are you looking at what I'm looking at? Because I'm looking at Nilsson dying.
I get that, and that's Nilsson.
That's Nilsson, okay. Right? That's Nilsson. Right. This is Arium.
This is excessive to me. Okay, fine. You're right. I don't. It's too much. Too much.
Jay is gonna hate this because he's gonna have to edit and all this stupid back and forth of the stupid images.
It's okay. I'll make it fun. Yeah. Anyway. Damn you guys.
Anyway, and it's almost at that moment that Georgiou just runs Burnham through with her bastard sword.
Where did she get that? Like the sword
she got it at an airport, as I recall. We talked about this last week.
Yes.
No, I mean, I didn't remember seeing it on her back at any point during this whole scene. Then suddenly she pulls out the sword of Grayskull and just has it.
I have the power.
No, she's been wearing it the whole time. She it's right on her hip.
Yeah.
That thing's a little big to be.
It's big.
It's a little big to be on the hip. Okay, I might have to just watch it again. To me, it felt like where the hell did this sword suddenly come from? I don't remember.
She's wearing this like flowy robe a lot. It's kind of hidden by the robe or whatever. It's on one of the sides. It's on her left hip.
Kind of like how Palpatine hid his lightsaber in his sleeve.
Yep. She drops the robe right before they go into combat with each other.
Okay.
Anyway, so she runs Burnham through right around the same time Burnham stabs her in the neck.
Oh yeah.
And as Burnham goes down gasping, Georgiou pulls the dagger out of her neck. Predator Saru shows up. I'm really upset that we missed Saru's missiles. I really wanted to see him just walk in and like range kill everybody with those missiles. That would have been so cool.
Why didn't we get that
budget on the intro scene?
I mean, I totally felt like that's what's going to happen. Everybody else there was on Michael's side. They were all pointing their guns, blah, blah, blah. And then it would just have been badass for Georgiou to be like, I'm not alone, and have Saru like drop down from above and just thwack everybody at once, except Michael.
Well, it wasn't just Saru though. There was another Kelpian that came in with him, right? Along with Killy and Owo.
Yeah. I'm not saying that we didn't get a good fight. I'm just saying that's the fight that I wanted. Her and Saru kill everybody and have Georgiou and Michael duel it out.
You wanted Saru to come from like a vent in the ceiling, like Spider-Man, slide down and then just turret with it in a circle with it.
Thwip and swing and thwip and swing. Wrong movie. Anyway, Saru enters. He declares he is clear of Vaharai, and he cradles Georgiou. Owo collapses, seeing that she has failed her empress. And as we zoom in on Georgiou's face, we zoom out on Georgiou's face in the Prime universe. She is being cradled by Michael, and it looks like she hasn't really gone anywhere. She's still on the planet where Carl is, and the open door. And the audio that's fading in and out is that she's passed through.
Right. And she was gone. Well, to her, she was there for 3 months in that whole thing.
Right. But she had only passed out for an instant.
Right.
But she also has bio data for 3 months on her wrist. So I felt like there are some cool callbacks to some really time funky things here. First, Carl shows Georgiou the newspaper change. Back to the Future called. They want their headline back. And then, nice.
Oh.
Good job, Renzo. Did you do that on purpose? That's so cool.
For anyone just listening and can't see, Renzo's got on a "You Are My Density" from Back to the Future t-shirt. Yeah, that's awesome.
With the cover of A Match Made in Space by George McFly. Yeah, so that's the first reference that I caught, but also the fact that her bracelet has 3 months of bio data reminded me of the end of the movie Contact. And I don't know if it was in the book as well. It was written by Carl Sagan, but at the end, the lawyer's like, I'm not really concerned with the fact that her visor only recorded static. What I'm concerned with is that it recorded 18 hours of static.
Right.
When she had only passed through the center of that in a blink of an eye. So
there are some great other articles on that newspaper too that we couldn't see the last time we saw it because of the hand placement. So Andorian famine contained. We saw the one about the supernova that threatened the Khan Empire. There's one about UFP relief attacked, looked like. But yeah, there's going to be people digging into that a bit more later, I suspect.
The Andorian famine might be an answer to why the Andorians look very different now, because the phenotype that was able to survive the famine was a bit different than the Andorians we were used to.
Andorians seem to have a slippery genome. We've seen them change their appearance quite a bit over the years. Like the way they looked in the TNG makeup was different from the ENT one, and so forth and so on.
Their antenna definitely have moved around a bit as the makeup artists have
up here, over there.
Yeah. What you guys are talking about right now is the reason we haven't seen any Klingons yet this season, because they don't want to go through another season of Klingon look controversy. I bet you that's what it is.
Not that you asked, but I hate the look of the Discovery Klingons.
I am not a big fan of them either. I Yeah, it would have been fine if they looked like TNG Klingons and we were talking about like a sect of Klingons that had been remote for a while and hadn't been affected by the augment virus. That'd be fine, but this was far beyond the expectations. They brought hair back in the second season, which was okay.
Useful. You can hide some of the weirdness of their head shape.
Right.
But you guys remember what I say every time we get into the Klingon look discussion, right? Do you remember the comparison that I make? It's so for the Klingons, we have this issue with their changing look because they're not uniform and all homogenous. But look at Earth, look at humans. Why can't it be that you've got some Klingons that have the look of, let's say, Vikings, Norwegian Vikings, and then another group we have like African Klingons. I mean, here on our planet, we have a lot of different looks for people, European, African, Hawaiian, Asian, all this stuff.
Big J, I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you on that. Here's the problem. The whole High Council was of one look, which was just the new look.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that my argument is foolproof, because Star Trek as a continuity does not help me with that at all. And I totally get what you're saying. Maybe it was that part was in power, kind of like back in our day here, the only power was held by the British, and maybe it was the 12 families of the ruling class of Kronos at the time was like that. Kind of like how, with us, the sun never set on the British Empire.
If Renzo hadn't pointed out that the entire council had the new look, I would have gone with my, on Earth, a couple dozen thousand years ago, we had multiple hominoid species until we sort of hunted them all to extinction to just have our predominant body type.
Mm-hmm.
I like coming up with rationalizations in universe for things,
sure.
Right? It's headcanon, and I love headcanon as a concept, right? I've kind of given up on this one until I get more info from something in Trek, because I can't. And here's where it breaks down. If you wanted to tell me that like T'Kuvma's Klingon sect on the sarcophagus was literally some sort of like proto-hominid Klingons that had like ancient DNA or something, and they'd been frozen for a lifetime or whatever, they come back and then see all these Klingons that look like either TNG Klingons or kind of TOS Klingons or something in between. Like, oh, this isn't real Klingons. Could have bought it. That's fine. But they did none of that work. They just told us these are Klingons, and they showed the High Council, and they all look the same. That alone, I could probably rationalize just the people looking wrong. Where my ability to rationalize it breaks down is the fact that their entire fleet looks different, right? Whereas only 5 years later, Klingon D7s look a certain way, right? And they have a real definite look.
Yeah.
You don't replace an entire Starfleet in a couple years. It just doesn't work. So listen, I'm happy that they wanted to try and update the look. I don't think that they went the right way, and that's just my personal opinion. At me if you want to argue about it, I'm happy to. But like, I think they could have done better. And the fact that they changed production heads so frequently in the first season meant that they never even finished thinking about it when they did it.
And that's at Shockheart or Hawkshark at Twitter, just in case you want to add him.
But I get what you're saying about the Andorians, and it's the same thing. They have more budget now. They're kind of styling them up. The Andorian change is more subtle, though. The Andorian change is way more subtle, right? Like their shade of blue is a little different. The antennas are a little bit longer. Their hair they got some additional ridges. Fuck it. That's all pretty minor, right? Compared to like the difference between a TOS Kang and then a Kang in DS9, and then what Kang would look like in Discovery, right? So right, yeah. Let's not ever go there and speculate that.
Another thing I really liked about this moment is, Michael's like, you were only down for an instant. And that sort of echoes City on the Edge of Forever, where they came back with McCoy and Scotty was like, you were only gone for an instant. So definitely cool there.
City on the Edge of Forever. That's an important episode. Did anybody remember that one?
Yes.
No.
Yep, I remember that one.
Despite the fact that he's holding up again an issue of the Star Dispatch, which is the same newspaper. If you haven't listened to last week's episode, we talked about that a little bit. And everybody's sort of incredulous, and they demand to know who Carl is. And he declares in whose voice, Renzo?
The Guardian of Forever's voice?
Well,
you mean the original voice actor? No, I don't know the actor one. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. He declares and they did superimpose the original declaration from City on the Edge of Forever. I am the Guardian of Forever.
That was awesome.
All of the fanboys and fan people and fangirls and everybody in between went nuts. I saw a lot of predictions. A lot of people thought it was the Guardian of Forever. I was banking on it being Carl with a Q and not a C, but okay. It made sense. You've got a guy in 30s wear the Star Dispatch and he's standing next to a freaking portal.
I should have called it too. Just the fact that it was like a doorway.
Right.
Never saw it coming. And here's why I didn't see it coming at all, because they were in the Gamma Quadrant. So that threw me off immediately, because we know that Guardian of Forever was not in the Gamma Quadrant.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm sure that the writers intended for that little bit of legerdemain, but anyway.
Big fan of the intro CGI for how they like form the Guardian of Forever out of thin air. Really quite cool. Big fan.
That was nice. Yeah.
So as he declares this, the door explodes into splinters and reforms into the shape that we will commonly recognize as the Guardian of Forever portal. And you can see it behind Renzo if you want to watch the video on YouTube. And right at that moment, we flash back to the engine room on Discovery. Adira, Stamets, and Jet are getting into it. They're debating the power redirection. And they talk about replacing I think it's the plasma conduits with polaric something, which is a reference to the energy that was used in I think it's the Voyager episode Time and Again, where they came across that planet that had destroyed itself, and Paris and Janeway had stepped through a gateway into the past 3 days. So another time travel reference in this episode.
You can't eat here.
Oh, right. What Jet with the licorice, and this
isn't food, it's candy.
It's practically an accessory, is what she said. So did you guys catch I thought it was a meta joke here when she just comes out and Sam is like, I haven't seen you since the dawn of time. And she's like, no, I've been in there the whole time. It was kind of like, because Jet Reno has been absent for several episodes, and here she just comes strolling out, and it's like, wait a minute, where have you been?
She's been keeping the ship running. I loved it.
Right.
That's so great. So so the reason why they're talking about this is because they're trying to get enough power to connect their sensors to their ship inside of the Veruban Nebula, which is the Kelpian ship, the Kiev.
Yes.
And so they're trying to figure it out, and Book strolls in with a gimmick. It is emerald chain tech that they can use to amplify their signal in subspace, which will allow them to connect to the Kiev. They do, and they begin downloading the information. Book also reminds Jet, you're not allowed to have food in here. Book is talking about how much studying he's been doing in sort of carrying forward from the discussion that he had with Saru earlier. And I feel like this is another moment that we don't get to see in Star Trek since Aaron Eisenberg's Nog, who asked Cisco for that endorsement and then like completely cleaned the floor in the cargo bay as a test. So that was kind of cool.
I think that the actual tech that he brought aboard, the one that's the gimmick for this scene, I think it's actually a reference to Hunt for Red October. So in the book for Hunt for Red October, if I remember correctly, though it's been a few years since I've read it again, they talk about how in certain parts of the Atlantic, when they're using sonar, you can keep it at certain saline depths, right? And it makes it travel further than it normally would, because it rebounds inside of that saline like level of salt water in the water, right? So they get further information. That's how they find part of how they found the Red October.
So they're hunting for a ship in the nebula, and they're using this amplifier to search through the proverbial saline to get a connection. How cool is that?
That is cool.
I bet you don't have a shirt for that though.
I would love a good Red October shirt.
You've got a shirt for everything. You don't have a shirt for Hunt for Red October?
My dad would probably be ashamed. It's true.
Yep.
Time to start looking for one.
So
did they make any merchandise for that movie?
Listen, if I just get a red shirt with like a Soviet star on it, I can totally pretend.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep. Fair enough.
All right. We're back down on Dennis 5. Carl's explaining that it used to be the Guardian of Forever portal, and it was totally cool and chill until the temporal wars kicked up and people tried to use it to kill people. And so it got the fuck out of Dodge and landed on Dennis 5 in the Gamma Quadrant. And you know what? Just as like I think the Guardian of Forever has now like transcended physical existence and is just a time elemental. That's pretty much where I am with this.
Well, I mean, I think it was basically like that when Kirk ran into it the first time around, right? Like,
I think it is because it's existed before your sun burned hot in space. So it's billions of years old. Only a brain with 100,000 years experience could figure that out, I guess. According to Michael, they say that that's why the computer on Discovery was able to deduce that it could help.
And that was, I like that line about how during the temporal war that everyone, was there a line at the Guardian Gateway, or was there just like always a constant fight around orbit to see who could get it and use it? And if the Guardian was consciously aware that this was happening, then why didn't it leave sooner? It seemed like it was just kind of happened for a while before he moved.
Maybe it was like a wizard's familiar, right? Like its job is to help its wizard. So its job is essentially to help time travel, irrespective of the motivations of the people doing the time travel, until it just got fed up and was like, you know what? I'm out. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then it flies off to the Gamma Quadrant.
Okay.
Quadrant.
I mean, the Guardian of Forever can track multiple timelines. It
Right.
Showed us that.
And there's a reason it's the Guardian of Forever. I mean, in City on the Edge of Forever, sure, but the temporal wars would necessitate said Guardian.
Maybe he's from the Space Force because they're Guardians now.
Oh God, yeah.
That's it for the show, everybody. We'll see you next week. Roll credits. That was pretty good. So yeah, the Guardian of Forever explains that Philippa needed to be judged. They debate her actions in the mirror universe and learn that her actions may have made a change to the mirror universe that validates her. For instance, her influence upon Saru and the revelation that their people can survive Vaharai may indeed institute some changes that Spock will be able to take advantage of 11 years later when he meets Mirror Kirk.
That's actually a good point. We didn't see any non-humans in Starfleet at this point, did we? I don't remember seeing any on the Discovery at all.
No, that wasn't a thing until, or at least the way they implied it was that Spock was the first alien. However,
wait, no, in Enterprise there was definitely non-humans on the Enterprise.
There were Vulcans.
We had to pull.
Yeah, and Saval, right?
Yeah, Saval too.
Yeah.
And the Denobulin. Denobulin.
John taught us how to do it. Is
No. There's a thing though. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the play that where Stamets was singing and Georgiou killed him, there was a Vulcan in uniform sitting behind Detmer or Nilsson or Arium.
Yes.
In that crowd. So
the Vulcan,
it's just a Vulcan.
Right. Well, if you remember in TOS, in Mirror, Spock made some, I'm trying to remember the line. He said something about the Vulcans or getting the Vulcans involved or something like that. And it was, and Sulu stopped whatever role he was on and was taken aback. Like, apparently you don't want the Vulcans involved, or maybe they're the hit squad, something. There's something implied that in the Mirror Universe, even though the Terrans were all about subjugating aliens, that the Vulcans were not to be messed with.
So in beta canon, right, they actually expand on that pretty decently. The Vulcans aren't the fighters, they're not the special ops, they're nothing like that. They're the administrators, they're the people who keep the books, the people who keep everything running, right? Mm-hmm. People who like keep the Empire able to expand because somebody's doing the logistics. Okay. So maybe if you remove them from the equation, the concern would be that the Empire would fall. Okay,
so what Spock said to Sulu is probably the equivalent of saying, I'm going to call the IRS.
Yeah,
that's the Vulcans in the Mirror Universe.
Or calling the Teamsters Union, right? The people who do the shipping, right? Like, you can't run a business without the Teamsters Union.
Don't make me call my union rep.
It just dawned on me that the Guardian of Forever had very lax password security in the past, and now it's got 2-factor authentication.
How so?
It had this whole trial thing where you have to prove yourself to be able to use me, and I'm only going to send you one place. So
2-factor authentication.
We don't know where she went, but so there's a neat thing that happened in Star Trek Online. Star Trek Online had a couple episodes with the Guardian of Forever. That was really cool, but that's not what I actually think this is really, really similar to. In very recent content, like six months, maybe a year ago, 2020, time flies. There was a content that had the Excalbians, also from TOS, judging you and your mistakes in the past. And Michael Burnham makes an appearance in this, and so does 7 of 9. Yep. And you go through it, and you're like, you go and relive things that your character messed up. The Romulans, you relive stuff with the Borg, etc. And at the end, you come back, and the Excalbians are like, you tried this, you did that, but you can't. You're stuck with what you choices that you've made or something, right? This reminded me a lot of that. Right, where it's this entity willing to let you explore alternative histories of your past to see if it rewards you or not.
I played that. It was a good storyline in that game.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, we kind of skipped over the conversation where the Guardian, tells Georgiou, you know what, you proved yourself, so I'm going to send you back to a time where your two universes were closer so you don't die, because she's fritzing out on the ice.
So he sent her back to the Mirror Universe, just back where she came from.
He did. He said he wasn't sending her back to the Mirror Universe.
He did?
Yeah. She said she didn't want to go back to Terra, and he said, I'm not sending you there. I'm just sending you back to a time when these universes were closer together. Now, he uses the terms mirror and prime, which I think is a little too meta fan servicey, but whatever. The thing here that is interesting to me is I didn't write it down, so now I can't remember anything about what the thing that was interesting to me about that. Whatever. They share a tearful goodbye.
So
way to skip into that. So there's definitely this awesome discussion between Michael and Philippa about like, I need you. I will miss you. You don't need me anymore. You've learned everything you need to learn from me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that was really great. Dag got it. What is it, Dag?
It was that I think the moral of the story is that sometimes things don't change. Georgiou changed the past. She didn't kill Michael immediately like she had the first time, and things still didn't work out. And this time, the stakes may have had far greater implications for the Mirror Universe than anticipated.
Insert Picard quote.
What quote?
Sometimes you fail, and that's not weakness, that's life.
That's not the quote.
I don't know it verbatim, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. So the guard, we don't know where she went, which universe. We know that she went back to the past, to whatever year. It was 2255 was when they
left.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they left in 2258. So she's at least back to around there. And the Guardian has acknowledged the
The drifting of the two universes apart.
No, not that. That there are multiple universes.
Oh yeah.
So,
and I totally dig if Star Trek is pulling this multiverse thing, because that's where franchises are moving right now.
Yes.
MCU, DCEU,
Star Wars is doing it. It looks like.
Yeah, the multiverse thing is happening, and
Star Wars is
nuts to go over it. This is not a Star Wars show. We're not going to talk about what just happened on Mandalorian season finale, which aired today. I haven't seen it yet, so STFU.
So you don't want all the spoilers then?
Oh my god!
I already saw a Lego spoiler on Reddit, so I'm super
tragic.
It's just one, and I'm not sure. I don't think it's the ultimate thing, because it's how they got there that's more important to me than what they ended up with. But
let's not talk about before we slip.
Yeah, no, you're
gonna love it.
Yeah. By the time audience, by the time you're listening to this, I will have already seen it. So feel free to spoil away at Trek Nexus. All right. So
before we move on, though, I think that the big discussion basically should happen here, right? The Guardian of Forever sees that she tried to be better, right? When she was surrounded by good people on Prime Discovery and good people in the Prime universe, she learned, she became a better person. It changed her. This is, I think, a really good example of a morality play, which Star Trek has always done, about nurture versus nature, right? And in this case, they're saying that the nature is irrelevant because the nature of people in the Mirror Universe seems to be pretty dark and dismal, but the nurture does it too. And then in the Prime Universe, the nature is probably good, but the nurture furthers it, right? Here they're saying that even somebody who was nurtured all the wrong ways still can be made better. I think that's what they were going for.
I think you're right on that. And to discuss maybe like a modern day analogy for that is maybe your trauma doesn't have to define you. If I'm just going to jump headfirst into that conversation, but like you can live in a very bad situation for a very long time. And in the Mirror Universe, you know, Georgiou rose to the top, not necessarily because she was the best for the job, but because she was the one that survived and had the reputation of fear that she had to keep people away from her. But I have to imagine that in the Mirror Universe, everybody is living with heightened cortisol levels. Like you sleep with a dagger, you have 17 locks on the door. And when you live in that environment where your stress is just constantly rise and you're waiting for something bad to happen and something bad happens, you can react and respond to it. Georgiou was really good at that. Then she comes and spends 2 years hanging out with our people, and that cortisol level is jacked, but it doesn't need to be. And she keeps expecting somebody to stab her in the back at every second. And after a few months of expecting it and it not happening, she lowers her guard a little bit, and then nothing bad happens there. So she lowers her guard a little bit more. And it's about being able to forge better relationships with people because you're out of a toxic environment. You're out of the place where you have to be scared and afraid all the time and you're worried. But then you move into a place where you can trust the people and they don't judge you for your past, but they see the best in you. Even if you are Space Hitler.
I think I want to quote the title of a season 1 episode of Discovery for this. It's a choose your pain thing, right?
Yes.
If you choose to live like you are in the Mirror Universe, in a universe that isn't that, you'll suffer. You'll keep being awful, right? She chose a different pain. She chose the struggle of like quippy battles of words with people in the crew rather than trying to actually murder them in their sleep, right? So she became a better person. She chose that. She chose her destiny.
Yeah.
Or her density. Same thing.
And it's not necessarily about, you know, your choices are going to lead to hurt in life. They just are. Accept that and choose which hurt you want. Do you want the hurt of going through the experience and enduring that, or the hurt of staying home and never doing anything? Every choice you make, it's going to lead to some kind of frustration at some point. But I personally, having gone through at least one of those tunnels, I want to do it and experience it and have all the joy and fun that comes with it. Because eventually there's going to be a moment of pain that you're going to work through. It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
What do you think, Big J?
So can I talk about the beef that I told you guys about earlier with some of the characters that were getting whacked throughout this episode?
Sure.
Do it.
Okay. So it wasn't the tapestry moment that we thought. It wasn't just a simulation of her going back through that to see what choices she would change, right?
I mean,
right?
wasn't it? I think it was. I mean, it may not have been a simulation. It may have been a pocket universe or something, like, as it was as real as could be, but the consequences were contained to it. It may as well have been Tapestry.
I think we now have a parallel mirror universe as opposed to the mirror universe that we've been dealing with.
I still want to stick to it being more like a pocket thing. Like, nobody else could ever get there.
Well, except the Guardian says that the choices you made are going to have repercussions, and Saru is going to be different and lead to and change things.
Yes, he implied that she was in the real mirror universe in the past.
If our universe can branch, somewhere out there's a universe where the whale probe is like vacuuming up Earth and nobody gives a shit.
There's a really good Star Trek novel about that, actually.
I like that novel. I did read that. Probe.
Yeah. So, well, there's a couple of them. There's another one that's called Shattered Universes, which is literally just an anthology. It's like 40 or 50 page books that's just like exploring one flip of Star Trek. It's really good.
Well, so let's just pretend like this is the actual mirror universe proper.
Yeah.
The problem that I have is that the people that were killed, all the events that happened, I'd be okay with it if not for the fact that at some point Discovery is going to enter the mirror universe, and there are things that would affect their mission there with certain characters that met their demise sooner than they did. It totally jacks the timeline, what was supposed to happen and how and when. That's why I don't like when Star Trek does this. There's more was screwed up than just the fate of the mirror universe and what it might lead to. It's the fact that they had an effect on when Discovery crossed over. So
Discovery already crossed over.
Not yet.
No. From the perspective of this Georgiou, Discovery already crossed over.
But
in the perspective of Michael Burnham, all that already happened. That's in their past. We're going to go the Marvel way of this. I think that's probably the only way to handle this.
And when Discovery crossed over, the Chiron, am I pronouncing it right? Charon was a part of those episodes. And the Charon we saw it being Christianed, which means that the whole thing with Discovery happened after that christening ceremony.
Correct.
So this implied that there was not enough that it was still supposed to happen later, because there was 3 months that she spent in the mirror universe, and when exactly Discovery shows up and crosses over into it
3 years ago.
No, but I mean, from the point that she went back.
I think that, like I said, I think that they're trying to do this from the perspective of Philippa, right? Time is around Philippa for this perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
She already knows about the mirror universe stories. She was there for those, the mirror universe in the first season. Mm-hmm. So that is already done. She's moved past it. Now she's gone back and she has spawned a new universe by making these changes. That doesn't affect the original one. Like Dag was saying, it's a parallel mirror universe. It's another spawn of a universe, right?
So now we have an alternate reality mirror universe.
Every choice is an alternate reality. If you look at multiverse theory, right? If I drop my phone and if it cracks, that's a new universe, because now there's a universe where I have to spend money to buy a new phone. Whereas one where it falls, doesn't crack, and now it's a different universe, and so forth and so on. Every choice has a spawning point of a new universe. That's how sort of.
Okay, so the multiverse that we're getting into is going to be a lot more robust. We're talking sliders level
we're talking parallels. The episode parallels from TNG.
Yes. So
that is everywhere.
I love that episode.
That was a great episode. Well, that upends the theory that we had about. So we keep trying to guess the Section 31 thing, and we thought that it was going to be here in the 32nd century. But it can't now, because the whole
sending her back.
If you go to another universe that's going to start messing with your atoms or whatever, but not as bad as if you went to another universe and then went forward or backward in time. So it's the long-term time travel part that can screw you up. So she's going to be back at some point where I think now with Michelle Yeoh playing Georgiou in Section 31 is going to be like we talked about last week, what the Loki series is going to be on Disney Plus, where he's like a multiverse cop, something like that. I think that's what she's going to be in Section 31. Is it's going to be all these parallel universes, all these multiverse things in the 2250s or whatever.
Maybe, but she there is a department for that. There's a Department of Temporal Investigations for that. Remember? And
they have when was that formed?
They had a file on Kirk, right? Like they had to track Kirk and figure out Kirk's things. Right. That's just a couple years later.
Right.
Well, but I don't think it was founded yet.
You don't know, but they talk about Kirk being their nightmare.
DTI existed in 2374.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, they have a file on Kirk. We don't really know when DTI was founded.
Correct.
Depending on when Georgiou reappears, and we're going to assume she reappears in the prime timeline for the sake of argument, she'll either be in a new show that's adjacent to Strange New Worlds, which would lead to some very interesting crossovers, or she might end up in the 24th century where Section 31 is a little less well known and a little bit more forgotten about from the whole control thing. And maybe she helps write the temporal accords.
Well, I don't think she's going to go to any other time but the time she's from, because they've established that time travel can be dangerous to your health. Not only time travel, but if you mix that with going to other universes, you're compounding the problem. So it's either time travel and that's it, or crossover to different multiple universes, but don't try to do both. That's when you're going to really run into trouble. So
that's fair.
To me, that's why I think they're not going to do her show as a time cop, not time traveling. It's going to be a multiverse, but there would probably be little time travel thrown in. It's already going to be confusing enough to do the multiverse. Let's not throw time travel into it. There's no need to. Because if we have all these different universes now, and I think that's the setup, because we had that set up in the last episode where the guy, the gray-haired guy with the glasses and
Kovich. Yeah.
Right. Kovich. He acknowledges that they know of the Kelvin timeline, and here the Guardian of Forever makes acknowledgement of these other universes. I'm sorry, I meant the Kelvin universe. So I think that's the setup. They're setting up that all these different universes are now, just like what you guys said. The big thing now is the multiverse. DC shows doing it, Marvel's doing it, and now Star Trek, they're going to jump on board with that now and start doing the multiverse kind of thing. And so that's my prediction, my now new prediction on Section 31. And if that's the case, you know what I'm hoping we get is a foray into the Kelvin universe.
I mean, I'm down.
All kinds. Yeah.
I'm just hoping we get Jack Ransom to join this quest so we have Jerry O'Connell sliding through the universe again.
I would love the crossover, but yeah, I'm down with that for sure. You could make it an anthology series or something like a very one-off centric show, right? Where each episode she goes to a different reality where some different change has led to it being very different, right? Like very much sliders. That's cool. I like that idea.
Okay.
Very, very cool. Carl tells Georgiou and Michael that they have to part ways for Philippa's life to be saved. Georgiou and Burnham exchange pleasantry. Georgiou mentions her son, and they have a very sad ending. Bizarre for a genocidal empress and this much empathy. Philippa's overtures towards Saru and Michael, to me, kind of felt a little out of place and unearned.
Really?
Just a little bit.
Why is that?
I'll tell you more about it when we get to the last scene in this episode.
Okay, sure. Mm-hmm.
So
Space
the Guardian disappears, and we are back in the Ready Room of Discovery. Vance is telecomming in. This is the new Zoom version for the 32nd century. You get holographics. Vance criticizes using the Emerald Chain tech aboard Discovery, concerned about the security of Discovery's spore drive. Saru says it was essential to getting the data that they need. Book vouches for its safety, saying he's used it on his own ship for 2 years. It's in this conversation where I kind of felt that Vance sort of maybe expresses a lack of experience, and I sort of headcanon that, you know, we know that the Trill Admiral was the guy who was in charge, and that was only 2 years ago. So I feel like, yeah, Senatal. And I feel like maybe something pretty catastrophic happened in Federation leadership that put Vance in charge, which may explain why he is so lenient with the Discovery crew instead of just immediately, you know, clamping.
He wasn't at first
and dissecting them. It's true. You're right. I don't know. There's some the way that he talks to Book and Saru here just sort of makes me feel like he is still navigating the ins and outs of being the fleet admiral as well. So I think that's good. I think that's great. I think that it's awesome that Vance is not presented as the top of his character arc. He is still learning and growing too.
Well, and on top of that, let's say that you're right, that the reason he's there is because of of the cataclysm of the burn. On top of, if he is a recently new admiral, is just the Federation's fallen apart. Earth has left it. Vulcan's left it. Andor's left it. They're down to, was it 30 some worlds now, where at the height it was over 300. So he's got that to worry about. The Emerald Chain's pretty much the powerhouse that's around. Dilithium is in shortage. They don't have many ships left. They're in survival mode. So basically they're one disaster away from the end of Starfleet. So he's kind of got that on his mind the entire time too. It's very defensive. He's playing defense right now, because
he's right to.
Yeah, he is. You can't mess around. So I think that's probably another part of what's weighing him down.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I totally agree. He's probably just being very cautious. I'm not sure that he's inexperienced or not, but he does mention that Senatal was a dear friend of his, or a close friend. Mm-hmm. So it's possible that maybe he was essentially Senatal's protege and had been like his aide-de-camp or his like right-hand man for many years. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I didn't really get the feeling that he was inexperienced. I thought he was just like, again, blindsided by Saru not telling him things, right? Not trusting him and telling him, which is something that Saru seems to keep doing to him.
Well, I think even if you have the most experienced admiral in Starfleet history,
he's got to trust his captains.
Put that person in this situation, in this world, with with the burn having happened and all this other stuff. I think you're going to get a similar person. He's going to be on defense. It's going to be someone that doesn't trust easily, especially when you put a very valuable asset like the Discovery and the spore drive in his hands, because now he's got a target.
You know, you guys bring up a very interesting thing about Senatal here. Like, we know that Senatal's sort of Trill spirit is in Adira, but they're not like going to Adira regularly to be like, what would Senna do? What would Senna do? What would Senna do? They're giving Adira their own agency. And I really like that. Like, it's cool that you've got Senatal's memories, and I'm sure if something useful is needed, we're going to figure that out. But you are not Senatal, and you're free to do whatever you want to do. And I think that's great.
I think Star Trek's been good about that with Trills generally. Like, we didn't see that very often with Jadzia. There were a couple times where somebody assumed that she was just Curzon and would ask Curzon-y things to her, and she would just be, I'm not Curzon. Same thing happened with her replacement.
Ezri,
yes. I couldn't think of Ezri's name. Sorry, the same thing happened with Ezri a lot. Ezri a lot, though.
But there was that episode where they held Jadzia liable for Curzon's crime.
They certainly tried to.
Right. And so that legal system, I forget what planet it was, but that legal system certainly didn't want to give Jedzia her own agency.
Right.
Anyway, so at that moment we learn that Michael is beaming up. Book excuses himself. Vance tells Saru he knows Saru delayed his reports until they had more data. He accuses Saru of being sentimental towards the Kelpians on the Kieth. Saru reassures Vance. Vance approves Stamets and Adira plan to continue using Book's device, and he expresses his condolence for Georgiou's newfound absence. Michael meets Burnham in a hallway and Book expresses his own condolence. We get Saru and Michael discussing, formally that Philippa will not be coming back, and Saru basically says then she should be considered dead. Mm-hmm. And we end up in is that the mess hall or is that the captain's? I feel like it's the mess.
It's the mess. Yeah.
So we end up in the mess. The crew's gathered around. They're all expressing their feelings for Philippa. She redefined the word badass. Best walk with that coat and those boots. Jet says she had no tact, and I love that about her. Saru says she was painfully honest.
Yes.
And it does end with a toast. But for me, I feel like so many people in this scene need to be absolutely livid with Michael waxing nostalgic over the Empress when in their time, her actions directly led to the death of Prime Universe Philippa that started a war, killed a lot of people. And I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like 3 years' time is not enough time to get over that wound and embrace this new Georgiou, who we know is genocidal. It just feels a little, I guess, too soon for that level because they didn't go on this arc with her. They don't know what happened. She beamed down and she's gone. They don't know that she went through this redemption arc and spent 3 months trying to undo damage that had been happening in the mirror universe.
Michael doesn't even really know the details.
Right. Michael has no idea, just knowing that she spent 3 months.
Well, Emperor Georgiou didn't have anything to do with the Prime Universe Georgiou getting killed.
No, but Michael did.
But Michael did.
And here Michael is toasting Empress Georgiou, while at the same time in the beginning of Discovery, she was getting flack every single day for mutinying against Georgiou, getting Georgiou killed, starting the Klingon War, and killing what ultimately led to millions of people. I mean, these are things that I personally have a hard time reconciling after only 2 years. Can you imagine 2 years after Pearl Harbor, people being friendly with the people who bombed Pearl Harbor? Like, that wasn't a thing.
Let's slow down a little bit though, right? Like, there's probably a couple mitigating factors. One of them is that, Georgiou did save all their lives. Michael has saved all their lives multiple times. Michael has sacrificed her life, or at least tried to multiple times, right? And it's a small fucking crew, right? Like, small people together, suffering together, surviving together tends to build a rapport much better than anything historical. And for a lot of these people, what happened with the battle of the binary, or the battle of the binary system or whatever, was
Battle of Binary Stars.
Yeah, binary stars or binary system. It was like years ago.
Stars.
2 years ago.
Well,
no, it's more than that, because remember they also had their jump forward, right? Like, they had a jump forward when they went to the mirror universe arc. I think they lost like 4 months or some shit.
They lost 8 months when they jumped forward. But they still left in 2258. So regardless of the year
also,
it is.
Michael was right though. She didn't start the battle. The Klingons attacked, right? Michael was trying to like attack as the Klingon hello, or the Vulcan hello, and she would have been right. I think that that's a mitigating factor that a lot of her friends are going to take into account.
Well, so I'm a little confused. You might have to re-explain it for me. Dag, you're saying that people there's something you said about Michael and Empress Georgiou that I'm not catching. Was it that you're saying the people there in the mess hall should not have been saluting Empress Georgiou?
Yes. I think basically, I think the people in the mess hall should be weighing Michael's apparent reverence for Georgiou here when their prime Georgiou is not there with them to celebrate, and it was Michael's hand that led to Georgiou's death.
Besides
that would just be
Detmer and
for me.
Saru, do we know if any of them knew prime Georgiou at all?
Detmer,
I don't think so.
Detmer and Saru would be it.
I think Detmer would be the one with the most
Agreed.
Frustration because she is cybernetic now because of it.
Agreed for sure. If anybody would be pissed about this whole thing, I agree it would probably be Saru or Detmer. But they've spent the last 2 years with this Georgiou, right? And this Georgiou has put her life on the line for them a few times too, has fought Control to a bloody pulp with her fists too. Like, those are some things people are going to remember. Now, I agree with you a lot about one point, though. I think people should be kind of pissed about Michael in this because Michael is replacing her love of real dead Filippo Georgiou with this fake Georgiou from the Mirror Universe, right? It's this whole like replacement mother thing that Michael Burnham is doing again. And I think her crew and her friends would recognize it and be a little worried about her and would have been worried about her before.
See, I don't know. I'm really not seeing, excuse me, I'm not seeing why they would have beef with Michael about this because yes, she caused the Prime Universe Georgiou. She was involved in how she got killed. I get that. And so she has this reverence for Mirror Georgiou, but that's because it's like here's my chance to have this relationship with this person that I didn't get to have. And I think that's kind of how I see it. And that's why I'm having a hard time with her crewmates having a problem with that. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think if I was there that I would have a problem with Michael and her relationship with Empress Georgiou because it's like she's trying to make up for maybe not make up for that loss, but to do though, right. Well, to kind of do right by her, to try to forgive herself for what happened by trying to affect that change. I think they were both doing it. They were both doing it because in the Mirror Universe, Empress Georgiou had that issue with her killing her Michael, and both of them have their loss of their counterpart, and now they're together trying to fill in that I never had the chance to tell you I loved you. I never had a chance to tell you I'm sorry. You know, now you've got the mirror person there, and
I'm with you.
I don't know.
I agree on all that, right? But I don't think it's healthy for Prime Michael to substitute her Georgiou with Mirror Georgiou because they are not the same person. That's kind of unhealthy, right? And I also think the same is true for Mirror Philippa. She should not try to find a surrogate or a replacement daughter to the daughter that she killed in her universe. I think that both of those choices are kind of unhealthy from like just a psychology standpoint, right? It's not good. And I feel like her friends would have tried to like be like, yo, relax, right? Like she's not your real mom. She's not your Georgiou, right? Now you can respect her, appreciate her, but she's not your Georgiou, right? So I don't know. That's where I find it weird. I actually think it's really fucking strange that the entire crew is eulogizing what they know to be a real like
space Hitler.
Yeah.
I get that too.
But there was a scene on the planet before Michael came back where even Philippa called her out and was like, and Michael had to be like, no, everything I feel is for you and for nobody else. So that might address, Renzo, what you were saying about how there was like a replacement, and maybe that replacement was what it started out as, but here maybe it is maybe she's learned to let go of old Philippa and
I don't know, man.
be straight with her feelings towards this Philippa.
To me, that line in particular solidified for me that
Okay.
It's denial. That's like a river in Egypt for me, right? Like that's really bad. Like, no. My feelings are for you. They're not for the old Georgiou. Forget her. She doesn't matter. Really? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like a river in Greece, the headcanon sticks.
True.
That's the end of the episode. We have, let's see, it is
3 more?
1, 2, yeah, the last episode
3
of
more.
Star Trek Discovery will be in the first weeks of 2021. Stay tuned for live streams from Beyond Trek Podcast. The next 2 episodes are going to be reviewed live on YouTube as part of the 12 days of content held by the virtual Trek crew.
We're going to be live, and that's live stream. It's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to that because we haven't done that. We haven't done that yet.
No, we're going to be able to type live with regular people and
talk to people,
listeners. It's going to be intimidating. Hey, and did we want to unveil the special thing about how like they could call in to us live and talk to us?
Oh yeah. So what we're going to have, we're going to be live streaming episode 11 and 12, our review there. It's going to be Saturday, December 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. And,
what channel?
We're going to have the links to that. If you go to our Facebook, Beyond Trek Podcast or Beyond Trek Productions, doesn't matter which one, we're going to have the links for each date. So it's going to be December 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Saturday, January 2nd, same time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be going live, the whole live stream thing. And what we've got set up here, it will have a phone number that you will be able to call into. It's a Google Voice number. It's just going to basically send you to my cell phone. I've got a little hookup here that basically we can talk to people. So they'll be able to call and we'll be able to talk to them live. They can have a little conversation here or there, like a radio call-in show kind of thing. So
didn't we used to have this like in the late 90s where you could like dial a special number to get people to conference in on one line, like a party line?
There was, yes. There's a party line. Yeah, way back in the day.
So that's what we're doing is a party line podcast.
Right.
That's
right.
cool. I like that.
It's going to be exciting.
I wanted to say potty line, but that is not what I want to say now.
Not potty line. No.
Now, just so the listeners understand, the rationale behind this is it's going to be the holidays. The episodes are going to be on like the 26th and the 2nd. So cut us some slack. We don't want to spend a lot of time editing and, doing the whole shebang. So that's just nicer to us. And we're just going to fuck it. We're going to do it live. We're going to do it live.
Right. We're going to do it live. Bill O'Reilly.
With extreme close-ups.
Do we want to talk about the other thing we're going to be showing during 12 days of content?
You mean the time that we interviewed John Billingsley and it was super cool? No, we should never talk about that.
Oh, no. Yeah, we should keep that secret. But yes, we
Little
did.
Dag. Yeah, Little Dag. We should definitely not talk about that.
Little Dag.
If you want to know more about Little Dag, you're going to have to tune in to our very special and super cool interview, an exclusive that we got with John Billingsley, the actor who played Dr. Phlox in Star Trek Enterprise. He is a fabulous human being, a funny, awesome guy. I was in stitches multiple times throughout that interview. So please do check that out. That's going to be airing sometime next week, but we're going to link you and you can find us everywhere that you get your podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, all the great places. You can check us out on YouTube at Beyond Trek Productions, where you can see us say exactly what we're saying now, just with our reactions. Hit us up on Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod. Yell at us or comment. It's cool. Subscribe and like all over the place. And if you're really interested in our content, hit us up on Patreon at Beyond Trek Productions. Help us out. Donate. Every 100% of what you give this show goes right into all the production stuff. We're here for the hobby. Jay does all the editing. I am here. But I do timelines and stuff cool.
I pick
You
up
do a
heavy
lot of
things
cool
when
stuff.
we need to.
I think Renzo's pretty.
Okay.
Don't worry, Big J. You can be the Cisco for all of us.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. I
Well, we have special thanks too.
think that's all the fun stuff. I don't have a list of the special thanks.
Oh, okay. I can do that. I've got that right here. So special thanks to our contributors, Stephanie Baker, who is a Patreon and Anchor subscriber.
We love you.
Love you. Thank you. And Jim Cook, who is an Anchor donator. And then John from Cygnus-X1.net, who does the screen caps for these episodes. Thank you, John, for all of your work with that. And
dude, John just posted an entire Guinan gallery yesterday on Reddit. It's every outfit that Guinan has ever worn.
Oh, really?
And he breaks it down really well. And it just it was something I never ever thought I wanted to need, but it was great.
I'll have to see that, especially her hats.
Yeah,
like
It's got these epic hats.
Yeah,
man.
and it does not disappoint on that front for sure.
All right. Well, stay tuned, everyone, for our live streams next couple Saturdays. It's December 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern, and January 2nd, 8 p.m. Eastern. I don't have the date and time yet as to when our interview with John Billingsley is going to premiere for this next virtual TrekCon. They're doing the schedule this weekend. Things are getting set up, so we don't have it just yet. But as soon as we have it, we're going to have it on our social media, and join us for that. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
I will absolutely post it, link to it on Beyond Trek Pod at Twitter. Twitter at Beyond Trek Pod when it's out. So if you want to know more about it, follow us there, and we'll be happy to engage you.
Yes, spend your holidays with us.
But also with your family, and have a great end of your year. Enjoy, have eggnog, celebrate the cheer and getting out of 2020 for once.
But
family schmamly.
If for those of you who are working or are distant from your family this season due to COVID, some of us are right there with you. I know I am. I'm not going to be spending it with a lot of people. There's like 2 people that I'm actually going to see in person. So I'm definitely going to be all over the social webs, commingling. Let's do a sing-along. We could do like all the Christmas songs, but trekking in a winter wonderland or something like that.
I'm just gonna slide over.
Renzo's out. We're done here.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.